Right. Good evening. Welcome all to tonight's meeting that will focus on our high school students. As you may have heard, our school year will open with very different ways of teaching and learning due to the current pandemic. I'd like to thank the tireless effort of our 14 subcommittees, our teachers, and district staff. We have had about 10 meetings like this with parents and students of different age groups. And today we will focus on what approach, what method of teaching that will be appropriate and feasible to our high school students. The school district with the 14 subcommittees have a tentative plan for our students in 2020-21 school year. The students' health and safety are our top priorities. So tonight we are inviting you to this meeting to help us identify the issues, particularly for our high school students. At the end of the presentations from Superintendent Jordan and our principals, there will be a question and answer session. Because we are limited of time by time, each parent please ask one question. And we will ask the staff to respond as succinctly as possible. If there is time left after the first round, we will take the second round of questions. You may also submit your questions online and someone will get back to you within a day or two. Thank you so much for the support, for attending this meeting, and for being the first teacher at home to our students. And I would like now to introduce you to our Vice President, Chris Norwood.
Thank you, President Leanne. Good evening, parents and Milpitas High School students, staff, leadership, and in some instances, teachers. I would like to echo the sentiments of our board president, Han Leanne, by thanking you for attending. COVID-19 has significantly changed our lives, and in particular, the field of education, which we all are committed to in the city of Milpitas. Classes are different, the structure is different, the way that we're approaching it is different. We all have to be prepared and continue to prepare to adapt and change for the foreseeable future. As I reflect on what we were able to accomplish the first 6 months over COVID-19 and during the summer, it has been an incredible effort. And kudos to all of our staff and also to you parents for the support that you have provided. We are hopeful in conducting these sessions. We get to hear your concerns, your worries, and ways that we can work together to be successful. It will take both of us or all of us together in order to support the students as best as possible. I would ask everyone to keep in mind that this is a work in progress, that some items may change over time, but we do have an initial plan based on the governor's orders and the local health county orders. I think it is also important to ask the parents is that to ensure that your students are involved currently in learning how to wear masks on a consistent basis, practicing social distancing, and all the things that we need, because we also care deeply about our teachers, our administrators, and our classified team members. And with that said, I will turn it over to our superintendent, Cheryl Jordan. Thank you.
Thank you, President Leanne and Vice President Norwood. Before I turn on the presentation, because one of the things we are focusing on as we begin to phase into 2021 is building community virtually. And we can do that by seeing each other's faces instead of titles or phone numbers. So I'd like to invite everybody to turn on your video and wave so we can say hello to each other. So it feels good to see our community and who makes up Milpitas Unified. And we all make up Milpitas Unified. Because we are a community and our number one strategic goal in Milpitas Unified is a culture of we went about planning and preparing for phasing in 2021 in a way that's slightly different from my colleagues in the other 32 districts across Santa Clara County. I know that many of them have already posted their plans, and that some of them had up to 50 people involved in their planning. And I'm proud to say that here in Milpitas, we've had 260 people involved in all of the planning directly. And in addition to that, if you consider all of the surveys and community and parent conversations that we've had since March, with over 6,000 respondents and 25 plus parent meetings and community meetings, as well as team member meetings, providing input and giving us the issues that we needed to address as we think about MUSD Educate Everywhere version 2.0. That's a whole lot of we being put into our plans. So I'm proud tonight to share with you this opportunity to ask questions and also to hear about some of the planning that our subcommittees have put together from our advisory task force. And I also invite all of you to our special board meeting on Monday at 6 p.m., where you will be able to hear from all 14 subcommittees as they present the various parts of our planning for phasing in 2021. Tonight we have with us members of our high school team, and we also have Norma Rodriguez, our Assistant Superintendent of Learning and Development, our Principal of Milpitas High School, Mr. Francis Rojas, along with Assistant Principal of Milpitas High, Skylar Drager, and our teachers, Lita Meyer and Brett Weber, who have been very much involved in the many thousands of hours, literally, that all of our subcommittee members have put into the planning for phasing in 2021. Additionally, we have Mr. Carl Stice, and he is the principal of Cal Hills, as well as Jonathan Payne, our counselor at Cal Hills High School. And these two gentlemen also have been putting in many hours in preparation and also in building partnerships with families so that parents can have a community throughout the summer months. Some meeting guidelines to build community. When you ask a question, please make sure your video is on. Also, please do not use the chat until after the presentations, because that way it helps those who are trying to pay attention to the presentations to focus, as well as it helps all of us to listen without being distracted. And then when it does come time for us to ask questions, if you go to the bottom of your screen and hover around the menu bar, you'll see where your name is under participants. If you click on that, and then you can click the little hand icon so that we can see you raising your hand. And that's how we will proceed with President Leanne calling on people to ask questions. This is something called a word cloud. Many of you may be familiar with what a word cloud is. It's something that I literally copied all of the 1,772 questions that we received in preparation for these meetings. And I copied and pasted those questions into a word cloud generator, which then takes the most frequently used words and makes them larger, and those that aren't used as frequently are smaller font. So what do we see here? We see that children, students, kids are on people's minds, as are school, learning, teachers, and distance, hybrid, class, time, and all the other aspects of learning in this new way of COVID-19 with our MUSD Educate Everywhere. Those questions that you submitted with my superintendent's assistant and community board specialist, Mr. Scott Forstner, who is running this Zoom along with David Flashner right now. Thank you to both of you. We went through those questions and figured out the themes, and those are what are guiding the first part of tonight's presentation with frequently asked questions. If you have more questions to ask at the end and you didn't feel that we got to them, or you want to follow up, you can go to our front page of our website where you'll see the link for right underneath quick links for going to the superintendent's page. And on the superintendent's page, as you scroll down, you'll see that there's a form where you can enter your name, your email, and your address, as well as your question, and then submit it to the superintendent's office, where we will look at it, and within 1 to 2 business days, you'll have a response by the person who has the best capability of asking that question based on whose responsibilities it is. So again, here, this is the front page of our website. Right underneath the quick links, you see superintendent, and that's where you'll click. And then you'll scroll down, and this is where you'll find the form. You fill in your name, your email, your address, and here in this box is where you submit your question and press submit. If you have questions specifically for either Cal Hills or Milpitas High School, come to the top of the bar and go to schools, and then go to high school, and then you can go either to Cal Hills or to Milpitas. And then you'll see on the front of their websites that they also have a menu bar at the top, and you'll see a link for the staff directory, such as here, and you can connect directly with the principal, assistant principal, or the registrar to have questions answered. Registration and enrollment are 2 areas that we are getting a lot of questions, and that makes sense because this week is registration week. So I'm going to ask Principal Rojas first to share with us about registration processes at Milpitas High School.
Okay, good evening, everyone, Milpitas families and staff members who are with us tonight at this parent Q&A. Today, everyone should have received an email from me through Parent Square about registration, and it also had the attachment of a 3-page letter. So we have a little more detail tonight compared to Tuesday night, so I'll share that with you right now. Again, this should have all been sent to you this afternoon, early this afternoon in your emails. The first part of registration is the parent online registration, just as we do every year in MUSD. For the high school, that will be active starting on Monday, August 3rd. Okay, so on Monday, August 3rd, at your earliest convenience, starting Monday, please log on to your MUSD parent portal and complete the data confirmation process. That can be found at go.musd.org. It's all in that letter. Forgot your password, there's a link there that'll help you take care of resetting your password. Through that process, you will be able to update your data. I believe a couple of weeks ago, the district had asked parents to go onto to parent portal to provide input around choosing 100% virtual academy or virtual learning compared to the hybrid. Since we'll be talking later about our revised model for phase 1 of entering this school year, that information will not be asked in this process starting on Monday. When we move into phase 2 hybrid, we'll talk about that in a couple weeks or whenever it's deemed safe to go back onto campus. So in that parent portal, you'll update your emergency contact information. You'll receive the district handbook, the school handbook, as well as other information and permissions that you will need to do as a parent. Again, we really emphasize that parents should be doing this process, not students. Maybe students can help you log on, but it is the parent's responsibility to fill out this process. At the end of that process, there is an acknowledgement form and a student emergency card that you'll need to print out. And you'll need to print those out and submit them a week later when we go do student on-site registration. On ARIES, students and parents should be able to see tentative schedules beginning on the evening of Wednesday, August 5th. And on that same day, our counseling department will be sending out an email with instructions to parents and students on how students can communicate their needs with their counselors to do schedule changes. So I'd like to remind all parents and students that the week before school and the first week of school, our counselors really need to focus on scheduling. So any type of questions about college counseling and all that, if you can wait until after the school year has started to set those appointments with them. But you'll receive that information from our counseling department so we can make any adjustments if we have students who took summer classes at a college or have the wrong classes on their schedule. We'll get those fixed before the first day of school. Then beginning on Friday, August 7th, depending on grade level, again, this is in that letter that was sent home by email, we'll have on-site registration, and our students will be receiving time slots to come onto campus to take their ID card picture. So they'll take a photo, they'll submit those forms, and we'll do this as best we can, socially distanced and safe, very similar to how we did our graduation ceremony. And it is very important that all of our students get their ID card that day because you will need the ID card to get your textbooks the second week of school. Also, if we are going one-to-one with Chromebooks, meaning every student in Milpitas High School should have been issued a Chromebook so we can access Educate Everywhere at Home. And that will also be available on this on-site registration days, depending on grade level, beginning Friday, August 7th through Wednesday, August 12th. And then that brings us to the first day of school. So that is our registration process. Again, all that information is in a Parent Square email that was sent today. It has links, it has all the information. And again, please look out for more detailed information in the days to come regarding the specific events of registration. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Rojas. And now I'd like to invite Principal Stice to share with us the registration process for Calaveras Hills High School.
There we go. So, hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And we are very similar in many ways in terms of the registration process for Calaveras Hills, with a couple of exceptions. Principal Rojas did a great job of kind of going through the basic steps. So, online registration, you will again fill out the registration forms in Parent Portal, and all of that, the invitation to do that will be sent out very soon in Parent Square. Again, probably on Monday when ARIES is ready to accept those new registrations for the year and updated registrations. We're going to ask that all contact information, obviously especially important this year, be up to date, and that we have good contact info. We're aiming for 100% of parent contact with no bounce backs. So we will be testing that hopefully within the first week of school, if not sooner. Also, parents will be invited to an August 10th Google Classroom parent training starting at 6:00 p.m. New students will have a parent orientation starting at 5:00, and then 6:00 will be for all parents and students to be trained by one of our teachers, Ms. Mendoza, in Google Classroom. Mr. Rojas mentioned schedule changes. Schedule changes for Cal Hills will be able to take place during the first week of school. We'll have our counselor, Mr. Payne, available to assist students with schedule changes. He and I will both be on campus. However, the schedule changes will obviously be done virtually. Students will contact us in order to express any concerns about their schedule. Also, ID photos are going to be, school IDs are going to be issued to new students only the first or the second week of school. And then as available after that, because returning students already have an ID and there's not a pressing need for that, we will get to those as we can, but the first-time students will have priority to get those taken care of the second week of school. I think that about covers the registration process.
Thank you both. Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have over 260 people working in 14 subcommittees. We call them our MUSD task force, working to provide all of the details that we need for phasing in 2021. One of those subcommittees is called our Systems Subcommittee, and it's focused on safety and PPE and what we do in case there is somebody who has COVID. So let me go through these pictures quickly. You see here our secretary at Milpitas's MOT, Maintenance, Operations, and Transportation, and she has a sneeze guard. As you go through all of our offices this year, you'll see that there are sneeze guards in place. We also have hand sanitizer at every classroom and also in every office space. For those classrooms that are somewhat far from bathrooms, they will have hand washing stations. We also will have signage so that students and staff are walking in one-way directions so as to prevent us from clumping up and to better support social distancing. Placards at those areas where people may be standing in line will be 6 feet apart for socially distanced, similar to what you find in the grocery stores or Starbucks as you're waiting to pay. Additionally, we will have nightly disinfecting, and in between classes, Terminator will be used. It is a spray that dries within 5 minutes and kills the COVID virus. Additionally, we'll have a lot of signage all over the place reminding people to be socially distant and to wear their masks. Here we have a couple of our high school students demonstrating how to wear a mask, and they actually are running a club called Maskify, or a nonprofit organization, and they began this in the springtime, and they have a very large number of students who are contributing to making masks, which they then donate to, in this case, they were donating to Good Samaritan, and they've also donated to our local police department, as well as other aspects of our community. And it kind of links to a question about clubs. Well, these student groups are nonprofits. In a sense, they are similar to what a club is because they have a purpose, a mission, and a number of students focused on an interest. And for the most part, they hold their meetings virtually, and that's how we'll run our clubs this year. And again, as Vice President Norwood said at the beginning, it'll be very helpful if you can remind your teenager that it's important to wear the mask just as much as it is to wear a seatbelt. As we get into the habit of making it something just natural, we will all then become acclimated to wearing our masks, and they not only protect us, but they protect other people. Schedules and attendance. President Leon.
I believe that Principal Bro has covered that, but just to remind you again, that daily attendance will be taken. Our school will start on August 13, and the required minutes for each day is 240 minutes. and students are required to stay through on video throughout the whole duration of the class.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We learned through our experience this spring in listening to teachers, staff members, and especially students, as well as our parents, that there were a number of issues in how we could make MUSD Educate Everywhere even better than it was, given the limited knowledge that we had at the time when we literally took the plunge within 3 days to make sure that there was continuity of learning. Some of those pieces were having regular contact with the teacher, having regular schedules, some sort of uniform expectations between classes about how students' progress would be reported, at what time of day the students are to log on, how parents can find out information regarding what their children are doing, and also just kind of the feeling of anxiousness that arises when you have 6 different ways of trying to find information for classes. So what we will be doing this fall is taking daily attendance, and as President Leanne mentioned, you'll need to make sure that as a student that you have your video on. And we understand that there are circumstances where students don't want their backgrounds of where they live to be on display. And so we will make sure that you learn how to do a virtual background for privacy. Another way that we thought about that we might be able to provide some privacy is by preparing something like a green backdrop that students can come and pick up, and our high school staff with Principal Rojas are figuring out how to provide something like that for those students who need to have some privacy. Additionally, we need to make sure that we have weekly engagement. Well, last spring, we were looking at weekly engagement on Fridays, and it was, had the student been in contact with the teacher? Have they turned in some work? This time, it'll be much more accountability in determining what the weekly engagement is, such as turning in projects, assignments, formative assessments, tests that they've done, logging in and being part of the classroom conversation. All of these are examples of engagement, which will literally be documented each week because we need it for ourselves. And in addition, it's something that the state of California would like to have. Tracking assignments is something too that we found parents and students need to be able to identify. And so we will have the common learning management system that all will use called Google Classroom. And we'll have some support through videos online as well as live online instruction for parents and guardians to learn how to use and access the Google Classroom. Additionally, we will have either Google Meets or Zoom available for teachers to use in holding their synchronous classrooms. Synchronous means that it's live and happening right now, just like we're doing. And the other expectation is that every day, the students will have synchronous live interaction with their teachers. And that can look like what we're doing now. It can also take the form of a phone call or an instantaneous email exchange and texting. And as President Leanne mentioned, there is a requirement of 240 minutes each day of a combination of instruction and assignments and projects and research. So there's definitely much more rigor going on. And that is why we will be able to do grading and GPAs. So this fall, we go back to grading and we go back to acquiring a GPA. Additionally, we need to make sure that parents have access to progress of their students, of their children. And so what we will all be doing is entering our grades into Aries. So that way, as parents and guardians, we have a place where we can readily go and see how our child is doing for the week with their assignments. Now I'm going to ask Principal Rojas and team to talk about what the Milpitas High School schedule will look like. And before I do that, I'd like to share with everybody that what we had planned in June didn't quite work out with the numbers that we had. And additionally, with July 17th executive order by the Governor Newsom, we found that we would not be able to have secondary students, that means middle and high school students, in person until our county is off of what's called the state watch list for 14 consecutive days. So that might be for quite some months. This is why Principal Rojas said at the beginning that it is not necessary for you to indicate that you want 100% distance learning, because when we come to the point where we can have students in person, if you don't want your child there, then you'll be able to say, I'm just not comfortable. I want my child to continue to stay home and learn virtually. Now, with that said, I'd like Principal Rojas to fill in the details.
Okay, and now for the details. If you've followed along with us over the summer, this schedule looks very similar. It's just gotten rid of the dividing the school into thirds, 1,000 students doing this 100% virtual, and then groups A and B only attending school half a week. With our phase one, meaning all students doing distance learning, we're following the same time bell schedule where each period is about 105 minutes. 90 minutes of those are really dedicated toward instruction. And as Superintendent Jordan and President Lian spoke about earlier, every student will be required to log on to either a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting at the beginning of every period. So if it's period one, every student in that period one class at 8:30 needs to log on to the teacher's meeting so attendance can be taken. The teacher will then proceed with the lesson for the day, the warm-up, provide instructions, perhaps create breakout groups. Some students stay on the meeting for direct instruction while other parts of the class do independent work. And like President Lian said, the time needs to be accounted for. So at the end of each period, there will be some sort of accounting again of attendance, whether it be another Zoom or Google Meet check-in, or submission of an assignment that was due at the end of the period, or an exit ticket through Google Classroom. Again, this is essentially like we're going to school. When the bell rings, show up, take attendance, follow what's going on in class. We may be doing different things within the classroom, and then we summarize everything at the end and transition to close the period. So that is the schedule in front of you. Odd periods are on Mondays and Thursdays. Even periods are on Tuesdays and Fridays. The reason being is we do have some classes that are cored, meaning some classes go over 2 periods. So this means that if your student is in a class that is in a 2-period block, they will be seen every day rather than really long during one day. The breaks are built in, 20-minute break in between the first 2 periods, and then a 15-minute lunch between the last 2, between period 3, 5, 4, 6. As you can see, Wednesdays are for office hours, staff collaboration, preparation time. We are clarifying the requirement for attendance on Wednesdays, so perhaps we may have an advisory period where students check in with their teachers for Wednesday for attendance purposes. Again, attendance taken every period, every day. All courses will be graded just like they were before. And as Superintendent Jordan shared, we will be, our instructional leadership team, that's the high school administration and department leaders, have agreed that all of our teachers will use Aries and share their grade books to communicate progress of the students. I also want to add to that last statement that we'll probably also be creating some guidelines around what parents can expect for grading. We do encounter some families expecting grading instantaneously. Remember, high school teachers have about 160 students throughout the day, and it does take time to grade things. So we'll create some agreements around when to expect things posted, how long things take, so that we can all work together to support our students. When we move into phase 2, when we get off the 14-day watch list and it's deemed safe for students and staff to return onto campus, hybrid instruction will following the same schedule, but we'll transition into small in-person learning in very small groups for targeted students. And these will be our students in our special education programs, English learner programs, and then also provide a learning hub for our disengaged students where they are having challenges doing this distance learning from home, and students who need more additional in-person support on campus. But again, we will have to wait for that to happen. And like Superintendent Jordan said, that could be a long time into this semester. Thank you.
Thank you, Principal Rojas. Next, we have Principal Stice for Calaveras Hills High School.
All right. I don't know why my video keeps shutting off, but I will sort it back up. All right. So for Calaveras Hills, Cal Hills, there are a few differences, but really it's very, very similar. So to start the year, and also I'd like to mention that our counselor, Mr. Jonathan Payne, is on this call as well, and will chime in at the end of what I say to talk about a specific strategy we're using regarding attendance. So for the time that we are on 100% distance learning, which as Mr. Rojas referred to as phase 1, attendance will be taken daily. Students will be logging into their classes at specified times. And those classes will be 90 minutes of instruction and assignments / projects. Again, there will be some kind of as he mentioned, an exit ticket or a whole group rejoin at the end. If a teacher breaks students out into small groups during the class time, they can rejoin at the end to take attendance again and make sure that all students were fully engaged throughout the period. There will be sufficient breaks within the day in order to ensure cleaning and sanitizing of the classrooms. I'm sorry, when we're talking about virtual learning, that's not relevant. That will be later, but there will be breaks even with virtual learning to give students time in between their classes, so they're not on the screen for 3 hours or 4.5 hours straight. As you can see on the schedule is regarding Monday and Thursday for first, third, and fifth period, Tuesday and Friday for second, fourth, and sixth. This allows students that have either a concurrent college course or SBCTE, if they are expected to enroll in those classes. We don't want them missing because those are typically done during the fifth and sixth period. So we don't want them missing those. So that's why the first, third, and fifth. Then Tuesday and Friday will be second, fourth, and sixth. So again, a student will attend virtually Monday and Tuesday or Thursday, Monday and Tuesday or Thursday and Friday. The classes will be 90 minutes. And I'm sorry, let me clarify that. I'm getting it confused with in class. So the student will attend all 4 days. And Wednesdays is the day that we are setting aside for advisory. Advisory class will start at 10 o'clock a.m. And that's where students will check in about their progress. Again, attendance is taken daily, and they will be held accountable for that attendance. We are putting together an attendance support team, and an engagement support team, which includes our counselor, Mr. Payne, myself, and our campus supervisor. So if there are students who are not engaged or not engaged well enough to be earning credit, they will be contacted by not only their teachers, but also our attendance support team. And any students that are experiencing any online connectivity problems, any issues with keeping up with the classwork, etc., that is what this team is also meant to address. If you could go to the next slide. So that is all related to distance learning. Then when we move to phase 2 and hybrid, pretty much everything remains the same, except students will be live and in school 2 days per week. And then on Wednesday, if they're a student who needs extra support. So there'll either be a group A Monday and Tuesday student, or there'll be a group B Thursday and Friday student. Again, with Wednesdays being for intervention and further support. That is it for Cal Hills. Mr. Payne, did you have anything to add for Cal Hills?
No, Mr. Stice, you pretty much summed it up very well. I'm here as the counselor at Cal Hills for support. So if the student needs to reach me or parent needs to reach me, I can be reached via email, or I can be reached via phone. So either way, they can be able to contact me. As Mr. Stice mentioned, we will have an attendance support team that will work on the attendance to be able to work with students to make sure that we can find out if there's a reason why they're not engaged. We can work with parent and students to be able to get them back engaged. But that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Payne. Would you mind turning on your video for a moment so people can see who you are and get to know you?
I would. I apologize. My laptop doesn't have a camera on it. So
We're gonna
right.
we're
Well,
gonna
thank
fix
you.
that. Somehow he's
Good.
on a laptop that doesn't have a video. So we're
Yeah,
gonna
we
fix
need
that.
to fix that.
Yes, we will.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to point out to you that we have on our website our MUSD Educate Everywhere portal. And it is located just below the quick links. And when you get to the portal, you'll see that you can learn how to change your language settings in Chrome browser and Parent Square. That there's a lot of different ways to troubleshoot issues that might be going on with Classroom or Google Suite, and that we have a whole list of tutorials just for parents that our committee on tech tools put together this summer. So again, that's found on our webpage. If you scroll down, you'll see here MUSD Educate Everywhere, and right underneath MUSD Educate Everywhere is where the tech tools link is. So please do check that out. That's one example of how our tech team is trying to support our parents. And also they got feedback from our parent subcommittee. And this is one of the ways that we found that we can better support our parents, who, especially in the lower grades, are truly our partners in making sure that MUSD Educate Everywhere version 2.0 is the best possible learning experience for all, and especially for our students, your children. That is the end of our presentation, and now it's time for questions and answers. And just as a reminder, if you have questions after this, you can contact us by going to our website and either going to High Schools, Milpitas, Calaveras, or go to the superintendent's page. President Leon, we're ready for questions and answers.
Thank you, Superintendent. Principal Rojas, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I believe We may be using a different slide deck. There was a slide around extracurricular activities, ASB, and athletics that I was asked to create for today. But I can just talk about it. We did have a lot of questions about it at the last meeting.
Why don't you go ahead and do that, and I will see if I can find the doc. So go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
Rojas.
So to all of our parents and students, we had many questions about extracurricular activities, ASB, and athletics. We did see that one question in the chat that Superintendent Jordan addressed earlier. We would like to share that any information around extracurricular activities, ASB clubs, athletics, will be coming from our club advisors, activities director, and athletic director. So for those of you who were interested in sports, I believe our athletic director, Joanna Butcher, put out an email today regarding the schedule for sports that has been approved by the CIF at the state level, also with our athletics section. So all of our outdoor athletic practices are, not all, outdoor athletic practices are currently allowed under strict guidelines that have been approved by all of the superintendents in our athletic league. And seasons have been modified and postponed to January 2021, again, pending the allowances provided by our state and county for schools to open. So right now you will see students practicing, but following very strict guidelines around outdoor athletic practices. There were many questions about extracurricular activities, for example, like the math competitions, robotics, speech and debate. Many of these activities will actually continue virtually according to the tournament organization guidelines. So many of these clubs meet to participate in tournaments. Some of them have transitioned to virtual tournaments like speech and debate, and those are going on currently. And so you'll get more information about those from the advisors, if not already, when school starts. Thank you.
I figured out the problem. You put it in after I already got it set up. All right.
Okay, are we ready for the first question?
Yep.
There's Mihaela.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay.
Yes.
My question is with regards to registration. I also attended the Tuesday session, and my son is going into the 10th grade. And it was said that they do not need to do the student ID. They can use this, the 9th grade one. So will that be done at the later date after the new incoming students will do theirs? And also in terms of the textbooks and the registration forms, can someone else come and submit them in person?
Okay, so there were two questions there. So the plan had changed between Tuesday and today.
Right, I heard you.
Yeah, so that will, on Tuesday we said that we would only focus on 9th graders and new students. The company that we work with for school photos and IDs have created a schedule for us so all students can receive their updated school ID card, as well as it's an opportunity for students to come onto campus to get their Chromebooks if they need it. It's very important. So we would like to do that. And that's spread over 4 days, starting next Friday for 12th graders all the way up to the Wednesday, as I wrote in that letter. Your second question
was if someone else can submit the registration forms and pick up the textbooks.
So the registration forms will be due when ID pictures are taken. So the answer to that is no. Textbooks, as long as we have the ID card, someone else can pick it up, as long as the ID card is there.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you. Then I have a W. Lamb next.
Mr. Lamb?
Can you hear me now?
Yep. Hello.
Okay. My question is for high school schedules. What's the advantage of having 3 periods versus 6 periods? And then I noticed that each period is 105 minutes. Wouldn't that be a little bit long for students to focus on concentrate on one subject?
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. That's a really a question that I am glad to answer, and I certainly, both Mr. Stice and Mr. Rojas, as well as our team, can answer as well. The advantage of doing what's called a block schedule, which is what you see, is that students are able to have time to fully take in the entire lesson, and sometimes, particularly in those cases, and I'm talking about when we're in person in addition to virtual, but in those cases where we have labs or projects that teams within the classroom are able to look at, it gives the sense of continuity. It's not broken up into 45-minute or 48-minute segments, and the students are able to really get further into what the lesson is for that day. And some other advantages are that it allows for students to have some spacing in between their assignments that they have to work on in the evening. And so it allows for more focused time there as well. And the block scheduling is an advantage also for the teachers because they're able to really develop some in-depth instruction that they can complete, as I said earlier, in one day. And I will ask some of our teachers to share with us what they see as advantages of block scheduling. I know we have Ms. Meyer with us, as well as Mr. Weber and several other teachers.
So this is Ms. Meyer. I would say one of the advantages that I have seen, okay, sorry. One of the advantages that I have with our, with the block schedule and with this schedule is being able, we tried the once on every hour during the spring, and it takes time to get the students logged in. It takes time to get things going. And so with this schedule, we can do more in-depth work with the students. We are not expecting that our students are staring at the screen for 105 minutes, but doing different activities and different things. And if the teachers are aware of this, and as long as we make our classes more interactive, we'll be just fine.
I think I would just add that students had reported in the spring at times being a bit overwhelmed with having to check in and do assignments for 6 classes within a single day. It's a lot to expect because there is the need to navigate the technology, and that does take time, as Ms. Meyer mentioned, and they find it much more doable, I think, to really focus in on 3 classes a day and get some really quality time with that teacher.
I'd also like to add the fact that if you think about what our students are preparing for in terms of college, it's very similar to a college schedule. And I can promise you that if our teachers felt that they could do a similar school day to what they do online, we would have a very similar model that we had already. As what has been shared by the superintendent is that there's been a lot of research that has been taking place, a lot of surveys, a lot of data that we've analyzed in terms of what would be best for our high school students. And we realized that we're trying to create pathways for all learners. The 3 periods per day, as Carl had mentioned, and the things that Letta had also mentioned, are extremely valuable as we prepare them for the future.
Okay. We are
Would
good,
this,
Mr. Lam?
would this method carry through after the pandemic is over? If you say so many advantages, why you want to go back to the previous method?
That's not a topic for this. That's not a topic for this conversation.
All right, maybe one of us can answer Mr. Lamb's question by emails or so. I'm going to move on to Raj.
I see, did we miss Sarabi?
No, Sarabi raised hand after.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My camera has security issues, not allowing me.
Okay. Thank you,
I
Raj.
think most of the questions have been answered. One was the extracurricular activities. Does that also include marching band? How is that being planned for?
Right now, the county public health department has not allowed for band, chorus, or instruments, marching band, chorus, or instruments which are windpipes because of the aerosols that are produced. So in the meantime, Principal Rojas can share with you what the teachers are doing to provide instruction for students in music and chorus.
So my discussion with our band directors, they will continue with their band classes. So even without marching band, there is still music theory, instrumental technique that can be all done virtually. So they will continue with that. Currently, we do have musicians that are doing practice, just like some of our athletes, but all of the instruments that they are practicing with are percussive instruments that do not require any wind that come from the body. So we will continue with our music classes. Students who are enrolled, they'll have their instruments, they can practice at home, they will receive guidance and technique through virtual classrooms.
Got it. Okay. And one more question. If you're opting for hybrid to start with, and after the hybrid opens up, is it possible for us to switch to a complete online?
So what we found is our intention was to create a 100% virtual school, and we needed to have about 1,000 students to do that. And then we were going to create a hybrid. However, as Vice President Norwood shared at the beginning, information, knowledge is constantly changing. And so we had to change our plan from what we set out to do in June, and found that instead what we will do is provide 100% distance learning with targeted student support. And we're going to be phasing in towards a hybrid at some point. So this means that when the time comes that we can provide targeted student support, if your child is asked to come in for that and you are still concerned and would prefer that your child continue to learn 100% virtually, you can decline.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm done with my
You're
questions.
President Leanne, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. Sarabi, I see that you lower your hand. Do you still have a question, or your question's been answered?
Hi.
We still have one question. One question. So for the dual enrollment for our
We can't hear you. Can you please turn your volume up?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Thank you.
Oh. Yeah, sure. So for the dual enrollment, how can we get the R40 form signed for the fall session since the counselors are out and the registration is already starting to fill up for the classes?
It sounded like you asked, how do we get in touch with the academic counselor and how do we find out our classes if registration has already begun? So Principal Rojas?
For the dual enrollment for R40.
Yes, so we do have some students and parents requesting approvals. They are all in my email box. The thing is I need to make sure that the counselors approve those courses before I approve them, because I do not want to authorize a student taking a college course that they are not ready for. Our counselors will be coming in on Monday, and that'll be part of the information that they have when they put out regarding that. So I am, you know, I get hundreds of emails a day. A lot of those are the R40s. I have been taking some time looking at them. If they are, so I believe Miss Jordan, our timeline does not fit with the timeline of some of the college, and registration for some colleges for fall quarter are already happening. And so I'm trying to find time to analyze the transcripts myself and do the approvals. But please be patient with us. But when the counselors get back in next week, we will move forward with that process.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rojas.
Thank you. Next up, we have Lavanya.
Hi, actually I'm Lavanya's husband. My kid is going to be a fresher, like first year in MHS. I have a question, like I don't see the schedule offering any options for like parent teacher. For example, my kid is not able to understand some concept which was say taught in the morning. Would there be an opportunity for students to interact with the teachers to understand those concepts better? Is there a plan to incorporate few of those hours, or?
I don't understand the question. Based on our
Yeah,
schedule, our students are your student will be interacting with their teachers every day.
Okay, so it is part of class, is it? Like, I mean, I just wanted to know if my kid is not able to understand a concept or something. Usually he has been provided some support to interact with the teacher, right?
Yeah.
Is there a plan for that to be online, like maybe 20-30 minutes each day where it's like open office hours and students can ask the teachers any questions and concepts that they might not have understood?
Yes.
So, hi, my name is Skylar Drager. I'm one of the assistant principals at Milpitas High School.
Hi.
And because we're holding more live Zoom and Google Meet class sessions, it will be much more like an in-person face-to-face session. And so there are there's much more availability for the students to be able to ask teachers direct questions. And as always, students may contact their teachers privately via email and set up an appointment to discuss with them if they have problems. And so yes,
Okay.
There's a support system in place. They simply need to reach out to their teacher and find out what their individual teacher is doing.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we have up next Natalia.
Oh, hello. Do you hear me? Hi, hello, do you hear me?
Okay, now we can.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for the session. And actually, I'm looking at the Milpitas High School schedule, and I just was reading the note, and it says that all distance learning to start semester 1. When allowed under state and county guidelines, hybrid instruction will follow they say schedule, but will transition into in-person learning in smaller group of targeted students, special education, English learning, and learning hub. So my question is, so if you don't belong to the targeted, if your student does not belong to a targeted group, they won't be able to go in, start in the hybrid style?
So,
I mean,
so
it
not,
just, you have this schedule in front of me and I happen to read it. So it's like, you know, it's like reading a fine print.
Okay, let Principal Rojas answer your question for you, please, Natalia.
so
Thank you.
I wouldn't say that it's as definite and concrete as it's stating in words here. The Learning Hub is designed for students who don't fall into the specific targeted groups, but say, I need some help. I need to be on campus for extra support. So as we move into the hybrid instruction model for students and families that feel my child needs to be on campus, okay, we always hear about, I don't want my child on campus. But we also know that there are families that will say, I don't fall into a special education program. My student doesn't fall into an English learner program or is in an identified targeted group. The Learning Hub will be there to allow the student to come onto campus, be supervised, to follow their schedule and get support by a staff member who is supervising a small group for a Learning Hub model. So there will be that option. And when we get there, if those needs are communicated to us, we'll find a way to make that happen.
I see. So basically you kind of answered my question, because my bigger question was like, you know, I know that kids want to, you know, get together. It's like it's social thing. So I don't think our kid will fall under any, but I mean, even the PE, like, you know, running together, the usual thing what kids do. So at this point, because when I listened to the June session, it seems like you already, the plan was to divide in 3 groups, 2 hybrids, 1 distant, and it sounded as it would be like semi-usual style of schooling, like people, kids, if they choose or fall under hybrid, they would just go to school, would have PE, is a very regular kind of school. So in this, it's very different style. So in this way, it's like PE is not even mentioned, right? So it's like by definition.
Natalia, during this pandemic, things change every single day.
I see.
We have to monitor, we have to follow the guidelines from the local, state, federal. We can say something today and tomorrow is different. So just, you know, understand, support us and bear with us and let's make this happen. And let's have a very successful starting of a new school year for the students. Okay.
Thank you so much. And again, I really appreciate the session and opportunity to ask questions. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to N. N, are you there? We can come back to you. Let's go with H. Griffin. Okay, can we hear you? Can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you.
Maybe she could type in her question since she's up next.
Yeah, Ms. Griffin, if you can try to see what's wrong with the audio, we'll come right back to you. Let's go with Raman.
Okay. Hi, this is Sahin. I'm actually spouse of Farouk Rahman. So basically, I'd like to, hear some more, like if you can elaborate on how the chemistry lab classes would be conducted, or, if they will be 100% online for a while, how that's gonna look like, that would be helpful. Like, how do you envision, kids or students do those classes or lab classes?
So
That
I can address that. As a chemistry teacher, we are looking at different options because right now, to be honest with you, we're still evaluating what the different options are for our students. We know that laboratory work
hear
is.
You.
Oh,
sorry. Okay.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
No worries.
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So we know that lab courses are very important for or that lab work is very important for the study of science in general. And so we are looking at different options, but we have not settled on one option as of yet.
Okay. Is that good with you, Farouk?
Yes, that would be it. Thank you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Griffin, is your audio working now?
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can
Sorry
hear
about
you.
that. It was my headset and some other meetings on open. So I wanted to know if a call-in number, a dial-in number would be provided for just in case the network is down or students can't get connected. I know at work we have that. Sometimes we have to call in via an audio line. And then also, sorry, a second question is there a link to a consolidated single calendar with all these dates that are sort of mentioned for textbook pickups, student IDs? I heard there was a third thing I needed. The Google parent training. I know it was mentioned August 10th for Cal Hills. Is there like a link where we can see a consolidated calendar with all those dates on it so that I don't have to write them down and hope I don't miss any? Sorry.
Yeah, there isn't one right at this moment, but I know that all the different sites, the various sites are working on their dates, and we'll send them out in a more consolidated form as soon as we get that put together.
Okay, and a meeting number for the Googles, is that going to be provided for the students? Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're moving on to Cynthia. Cynthia?
Yes, hello. Sorry, I'm having issues with the video.
That's all right.
Okay. Yes, I just want to follow up on the previous question because I'm still confused. And I understand that information changes on a daily basis. But when the state government allows us to go back into the classrooms, then we will be given the option to do hybrid learning where our students can go back and follow, I guess, what was initially thought of back in June, where you could either opt for the 100% long distance or go into the classroom and do hybrid learning?
We're looking at it as 3 phases. So phase 1 is 100% for everybody. Phase 2 is when conditions are safe to do so. We bring in students who are struggling for targeted support. And phase 3 is for when conditions are even better for bringing in larger numbers of students, then we can move into hybrid.
Oh, I see. Okay. Because it seemed like, I think that's fine. Natalia was confused because so was I. It seemed like the hybrid was only for those special groups that were listed at the bottom. But okay, I understand now. So phase 3 is when we can start bringing our students back to school. But I guess it would be distance learning and in class, correct? With the hybrid.
Right.
Okay. And probably, so is the school district thinking that this will probably be 100% distance learning till December?
Most likely, because if you take a look at the parameters for a county to be removed from the state watch list for 14 days, it is rather stringent and and we've been off of it for a day and then we're back on it for 3 or 4 days. So it's likely that it will be through December.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your clarification.
Thank you. I have Wendy the Great next. Wendy?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So my question is regarding the student ID registration. I was wondering if is it possible to do it virtually because of the risk of exposure, because the kids would need to take off their face mask to take the picture.
Principal Rojas.
Yes, we won't force anyone to come onto campus. It will just really help us because of the amount of students that we have to give the books to. It just will really help. So if your student doesn't show up for that day, they will just have to not have an ID card. They still have their ID number, but when it comes time to pick up books, you'll have to pick them up physically. Like there's no
Oh, yes, I understand. Picking up books is fine.
Would it help if we explain the process a little bit so that you're comfortable with the process so then you can make your decision on that?
Yeah, that would be good.
And so we will be breaking those ID picture days down over the course of 4 days. So each grade level will be split up into half-hour increments of 30 to 60 kids coming in, spaced out. Our photo stations, there will be at least 4, will be set up in opposite corners of the gym, and students will only be allowed to enter when they're ready at the booth. So they will literally enter the station. They will be standing, not sitting, so there's not equipment that they will touch at all. They won't get near any people. They'll remove their mask, take the picture, and exit that space. And then they will go to another outside location to pick up the ID card as soon as it's ready. So they will only be indoors for the period of time it takes to snap the photo, then they will exit. Anytime that they are on campus outside, they will be spaced out a minimum of 6 feet of distance with their masks on.
Okay. Well, I was just worried because the virus do stay airborne for 4 hours. So if anyone is exposed to COVID, if they enter the facility, the virus can be in this facility for 4 hours. That's my only concern, because the kids will need to take off their face mask to do the picture. The breathing.
Yeah, you have to make that individual decision yourself. We will have our air system on and doors open, as well as out, and everybody not taking a picture will be in a mask. But yes, you have to make that decision for your family.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right, we are going up next to Sanjita.
Hi, I joined a little later. Sorry, I couldn't be there from the beginning. I had asked about the music, the band, and I was told Thursday you may have more clarity on what's going to happen with the band. So wanted to know if there is anything more than what we knew on Tuesday.
Yes, Mr. Rojas.
So the band classes will run as the class. Sorry, I feel like because I repeat myself over and over, I don't know how to say things anymore. The band classes, the classes will continue as scheduled virtually. Students, especially in the WIN classes, will have their instruments, and the classes will focus on music theory, music technique for that instrument, all virtually. Because it's not safe to come together and be close to each other with wind instruments, there won't be concerts or performances in a traditional sense. I did share earlier that there are some of our students like athletic practice, there's band practice right now, but for percussive instruments that don't require any wind. And so they're following the social distancing practices there. So all students who have requested music classes will get their classes. They will all be held virtually and focus a lot more on theory and technique so that they can continue building their skills with their instrument and also their musical theory skills. And then when things are safe again, hopefully those skills allow them to come back together and perform. So.
Wonderful. So in that case, can the kids take one semester, some other course, and January move on to band again if things open up in person? Would that be an option given? Because generally it's a year-long elective.
So it all depends on the availability of other electives. So as of right now, our schedule is pretty much fixed with some minor adjustments. And so we've built the schedule and we have the right amount of teachers for what we need. So if there is space, we could entertain looking at moving electives. However, just know that that is not first priority for class changes. It's first priority for our counselors really is for students who are in the wrong courses for graduation requirements, or perhaps they took summer coursework and need to be placed in a new course, advancing a level. And then elective changes would be maybe the third priority.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Angelica is next.
Hi, I wanted to ask a question about the Chromebooks. I noticed, or I heard that Chromebooks is required. Is it for all students or as needed?
For all students.
Yes, for all students, you need a digital device. And for those students who don't already have a digital device that they prefer to use at home, we have Chromebooks that we are issuing to students.
Okay, so they could use their personal laptop.
Yes, they can use their
Okay,
personal
okay,
laptop.
good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anne is next.
Hi, can you see me?
Yes.
Hi. So I have 3 questions. First is, will there be virtual all clubs presentation day where where all clubs are displayed and kids can know more about each club and select which one to enroll? The second question is, I'm an incoming 9th grade parent. Can you list what all events typically in a year happens so that as an incoming MHS parent, I'll know typically these all events are there in the school year, because it applies to incoming middle school parent, incoming let's take elementary parent as well, who is a new parent to that school, because I just wanted to plan ahead what I have to expect for that school year, because it's virtual learning. That's why I'm asking this question. If I coming to school every day, that's a different scenario. I can know from peers or from teachers directly, I can ask. Since it's virtual, I'm asking this question. And the third question is regarding PTA meetings or PTSA meetings in MHS. How are they going to be conducted? And can any of the incoming parents, 9th grade parents, can get involved in the board? That's my questions. And my name is Mrudula. I'm not, and somehow I couldn't change. So
Okay.
yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much for MUSD.
Yes, thank you.
I'll go ahead and answer those questions quickly. As for our ASB clubs are led by our activities director, Mr. Jarrell Maneha. He will communicate out events to students. They have a very strong social media presence about club recruitment fairs and different social emotional learning days, different events that they've been putting on for doing school spirit, even when we're not on campus. They did a great job in spring. So those will be communicated out, and we'll put the links to their site as well on our website to have that information out there. But there will be club recruitment. Usually that happens in September, early September. Your second question was regarding events. Some of our events were always in person, so we're figuring out, and I think this may apply to many of our other school sites, trying to figure out what events do our families need virtually, and how do we do those? So like back to school night, well, that's not gonna happen how it traditionally happens. So we'll think about those things, but every school has a school calendar, and so you'll be able to access the school calendar from the school websites with that information. And the third question, someone write it down.
PTA meetings?
Our PTSA will send out to all parents through Parent Square when their meetings are. And we have a very active PTSA at Milpitas High School. We had I think, over 400 members last year. So they do put announcements via email for you to join their meetings on, I think they do Google Meets or Zoom, and those are monthly meetings.
All right, thank you. I'm moving on to our last question of the night. Zana?
Hi, I have two questions, if you allow me. One,
you have 30 seconds.
One is about Wednesday. Will you provide some additional information how to take attendance on Wednesday?
So currently we're taking a look at the requirements for Wednesday from the state. So we'll be putting out more information about what that looks like. But we do know that part of that day needs to be allocated for our teachers to do preparation, to do trainings, but part of that day is also for supporting students. So because actually it was just on Tuesday that we found out we may have to do an attendance requirement on Wednesday, we will definitely put out a schedule for Wednesday once we get the confirmation on our requirements.
Okay, thank you. And one more question about PE. How is it planned to be for, well, ninth grade? Thank
Ms.
you.
Granger, can you answer the PE question?
Actually, yeah, I can. Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. So we are still holding PE for 9th and 10th graders. It will happen virtually, and it is dependent upon the time of year and the class and the teacher that is teaching the course as to what will happen on each given day. So a couple of the options are a teacher may hold a live Zoom session where they're leading a workout, and that oftentimes staff will do that either outside if they have Wi-Fi, or they will do it in their living room and do a workout that can be done in the living room. Most workouts are like of that nature would be done so that they take up very little space, so a student could perform them indoor or out, and they would lead a live session. The other way to do that is for a teacher to pre-record a workout, meet with their class, and then release the video to the student to follow the video to do the workout. And then the student submits an assignment in connection with that.
Okay, so it's very much like what we had in middle school at the end of year.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The department is working on cohesively as a group to come up with the specific lessons that they want to use. And so you will see that this coming semester.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you all. Thank you, superintendent, principals, teachers, our MTA.
Will the recording be shared?
Say that again?
Will the recording be shared?
Yes, we will definitely have the recording on our website, and we will have frequently asked questions posted next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
And thank you, parents, for joining us tonight. Your questions are valuable. This is how we are stronger. And like superintendent said, the questions and answers in this whole meeting will be posted sometime soon. So if you missed any part of this meeting, you can go back and watch it again. Superintendent.
Again, thank you very much for being a part of our week. And as our Milpitas High School students a couple years ago wrote on the Milpitas High School campus, we are stronger together. And that's how we are working through the challenge of COVID, and will continue to maintain communication. One thing that I am experiencing that I greatly enjoy are these meetings. And so even after COVID we're through it, I plan to hold virtual meetings about once a month or once every other month with our families. And during COVID, definitely probably once a month, if not more. So thank you, and I look forward to seeing all of you again virtually. And one day I look forward to meeting you in person.
Thank
I'd
you.
like to-
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
Hey, Cheryl and Han.
Thank you.
Cheryl and Han, thank you both.
Thank you for
Vice
joining us,
President
everyone.
Norwood is trying to say something.
I'd like to thank you both, Cheryl and Han, for leading. I believe this is our 10th meeting with the parents.
12.
We did probably a total number of parents. There's been at least over 1,000, maybe even more parents that we've met with. And so I want to really put kudos to you, and also our association leaders that were able to participate, our board members who we have with us as well. Thank you, everyone, for your hard work.
Wherever I go.
And thank you to our kiddos.
Yes.
I have a quick question. I was wondering if I could still ask it. Will this slide deck be available somewhere on Google Docs?
Yes, we will definitely make it available.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. All right. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Thank you.
See
Good
you
night.
soon. Bye.
Good night, everyone. Please stay safe.